In May, middle in May.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I just wanted to thank you for coming out on this cold day, but it's a little bit warmer than what it's going to be. But today we have Mark Tubbs and his daughter Jessica and her boyfriend Kat. And we are going to listen to Mark give a great presentation. So I'm excited.
Okay, I guess I'll start this out. If you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll speak up a little bit louder. I guess I'll start out with the fact that just looking at the group in here, it's just typical. You don't think too much about history till you get older. Some people are saying, wow, that was a long time ago. Well, I got a good friend of mine, and he always comes up with, he's a couple years older than me, and I'm 72. He says, 100 years ago. Well, when you're 20 years old, 100 years ago was a long time. But when you're 70, it really wasn't that long ago. So I wasn't interested in too much history until I got older, and I'd listen to my dad, and he'd tell some stories about the Tubbses, and I just thought he was blowing his horn or embellishing the story, and I just kind of brushed it off. But as I got older, what he said was pretty much true. He'd talk about the people that had come into the country down to Edgemont and whatever, and he called them Johnny-come-latelys. As I got older, I wanted to learn a little bit more about my great-grandfather. And I'd go down to Cheyenne. We'd sell cattle down on the Western Video Market at Cheyenne in August. And I'd take a couple hours and I'd go over to the State Archives, the library at the Capitol, and I'd try to find out some information about my great-grandfather. There wasn't too much information about him outside of the obits and whatever. But there was a lot of information about his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law was 8 years senior to DeLoss, and his name was Isaac Bard. Isaac Bard kept a diary, and that diary ended up in the Museum of Western Americana at Yale University. It was such a true depiction of the West. It wasn't a story he wrote, it was what happened every day. And as we go through this, it'll be a little bit redundant what I'm saying, but he come into Cheyenne when they built the Union Pacific Railroad, and he got a preemptive claim like a homestead down there on Crow Creek in Cheyenne, and after he got rid of that, he bought a piece of land 35 miles north of Cheyenne. It was on Little Bear Creek, and he had a stage station down there. Well, as we go through this, we'll try to read some of the stuff in that diary and explain what they're saying. It's if you people, do you know what cuneiform tablets are? Those are the ancient Sumerian tablets. Trying to read these diaries about like trying to decipher cuneiform tablets. So I guess, Jess, we can get started here. If anyone has any questions anytime, we'll she's running this computer so we can stop and ask some questions, and if someone has more information than I do, good, and we'll remember it, and this thing is always in the making. DeLoss Tubbs was born in western Oneida County near the village of Boonville, New York, in January 21st, 1849. His father died when DeLoss was about 11 years old. Mrs. Tubbs was left with 5 children to support, so the 11-year-old youngster got a job driving a team for an uncle on the Black River Canal. Okay. When he was 16, he wanted to enlist in the Civil War. His mother would then receive a bounty from the government. His mother wept as he slipped down to Washington, D.C., where his sister Rose was living, and enlisted as a carpenter. He served in that capacity throughout the war. He couldn't be in the infantry, but he could be a carpenter in Grant's army.
Rose was the one.
And Rose is the one that was married to Isaac Bard. DeLoss, being young, could not be in the infantry, so he was able to be a carpenter in Grant's army. One of the stories I heard was that he saw Grant laying drunk in his tent during one of his campaigns. To my understanding, after the war, DeLoss made his way out to Cheyenne, at that time part of Dakota Territory. DeLoss had followed his brother-in-law, Isaac Bard, and his wife, Rose Bard, Tubbs. Isaac Bard worked on laying the Union Pacific Railroad and established a ranch. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. After going to Cheyenne and trying to find more information about my great-grandfather, I pursued another avenue. I checked on his brother-in-law, Isaac Bard. I found that Isaac had come to Cheyenne in 1867, and also found that Isaac Bard had kept a diary. The diaries of Isaac Bard are found in Cheyenne archives. They are on microfilm, very hard to read. The originals are to be found at the Museum of Western Americana at Yale University. They are considered one of the best true documents of the settling of the West. After discovering the diary, I learned that Isaac and his brother-in-law, DeLoss, were very close, and they worked together. An early part of the diary was written in New York State. One of the entries talked about family members going to Rome, and I'm going, where did they get the wherewithal to go to Rome? I was very confused. It took me a while to remember there was a Rome in New York. Reading, and that, it was fairly close to Boonville, too. Reading the diaries, I found that Isaac Bard and DeLoss spent time in Cheyenne cutting firewood, unloading freight from the trains. Isaac had oxen teams, and during the equine episodic, which would be your sleeping sickness, he was able to supply drinking water for Cheyenne from Crow Creek, where he had property he had acquired by being in the Civil War, which this was called a preemption claim. And this is, did we ever get this wrote down, Jess?
No.
You didn't ever type that all out.
Did you want to?
Did you? Okay, I got it here. That's what you got here.
Yes.
Okay. Some of the excerpts of this, because you can't read it.
The yellow boxes are what.
Okay,
he's
you
gonna-
got it down here, okay. This was a guy that, go back one.
Okay.
In the annals of Wyoming, and this excerpts from that. And the highlighted portions are, talks about Highway 87. And Highway 87 at the time is the Interstate Highway 25 goes to the east of 87, or to the west of 87. Okay. Where there's a mile marker for the Bard Ranch. Cheyenne Fort Laramie Deadwood Trail, 1876 to 1887. Started from Camp Carlin and Fort D.A. Russell on the west edge of Cheyenne. This road first ran to Fort Laramie and in 1876 was extended to Deadwood, Dakota Territory and the Black Hills Goldfields. It also joined the Bozeman Road and Montana. Little Bear State Station, 150 yards east, was opened as a road ranch by Isaac Bard, May 4th, 1875. It became a stage station in 1877. Okay. Born in
These are excerpts from his diary.
Born in 1841, Isaac Bard came to Cheyenne in 1867 with Union Pacific construction crew, and when the railroad moved on west, he stayed and freighted out of Cheyenne. He located a preemption claim on Crow Creek, now partly within Cheyenne city limits, where he lived and one summer grew vegetables to sell.
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
Claim on Crow Creek, now partly within Cheyenne city limits, where he lived and one summer grew vegetables to sell.
Good question.
Go ahead.
Would you explain what a preemption
It's about like a homestead.
was? It, but he
But
did he get special privilege?
I
because
think he
was
had
veteran?
special privileges being in the Civil War. And one of the things that he was one of the first ones in Wyoming to get a preemption claim.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And this was at Isaac Bard. Okay, in Cheyenne in 1874, he wrote, "The wind blew the roof off of the Cheyenne Methodist Church on February 18th, 1874. The military act like they meant business. Seen 18 yoke teams start for Fort Laramie from Carlin, escorted by one company of cavalry. Rose making reading knot, whatever that is. October 2nd, 1875, seen President Grant at the Inner Ocean Hotel. October 12th, Major Black's stable is burning. October 13th, water boiled from potatoes much sooner than usual. Good indication of rain, and rain it did. December 11th, 1875, arrived at Chug Station, which would be Chugwater, in time for dinner. Portuguese Phillips building a stable to hold 24 horses. December 12th, 1875. Phillips killed a white spotted cow about 4 years old with a calf in her. A sin to kill her. December 24th, 1875. Cheyenne bought for Mother styrete comb and a large pair of shears. We'll put them in her stocking this eve. Took 3 ounces of gold dust to apply on a cow. Okay. Okay, February 29th, 1876. our Black Hills crowd all pulled out after laying over one day. I am very glad of it. They needed watching all the time. I missed a saw, a hammer, a hand axe, gone to the Black Hills, I believe. February 21st, 1876. Very pleasant all day. There is 6 to 8 hills teams here. Calamity Jane is here going up with the troops. I think there is trouble ahead with the Indians. Everything is crowded here. There is 7 companies on the road. February 23rd, 1876. Ranger Johns is here with horses he recovered from the Indians. They are raiding on the Laramie again. March 1st, 1876. Blustery worked on a new bar room all day for John Phillips at Tubb. March 2nd, Black Hillers are bothering me a good eel of late. Can't leave. Can't leave a thing laying around, for it will it'll get Black Hills fever and start immediately for the hills. A rough bunch, mostly miners. Friday, March 3rd. The report is that John Latham in Dougherty is killed by Indians. Nothing sure. As the Indians say, we are having a heap of wind of late. April 3rd, 1876. Now that the roads are all right, all of Crook's command, General Crook's command are on the road headed for Cheyenne. The Indians got the better of them. April 23rd, found the bones of the man in the brush. Then went prospecting for rabbits. April 25th, Mr. Graves passed up today with a coffin for the body of Mr. Brown, stage driver. The Indians are having their own way. I hope this will not last always. It looks like our government is of no account. It does not protect the lives of the citizens, with an S. Stuttering Brown's body passed down today. Heck, Reel's bull teams came in and camped down the creek. Meanwhile, the Indians scare along the Black Hills Road sent some of the miners back in droves. Most who failed to find gold were indulging in sour grapes. May 3rd, 1876. Lots of Black Hillers passing bound for Cheyenne. They had their fill of mining. They're looking for gold. In a terrible hurry to give a bad report of the hills. They got all they want of it. May 5th, men coming out of the hills very fast. Some wagons show marks of Indian bullets. Indian news is looking bloody again. Shot a wolf with a needle gun. I don't have any idea what a needle gun is, but maybe someone does. Seen General Crook today. He looks like some old farmer. He is very sociable. They camped down by the creek. May 19th. Took in $25 on my ranch today. It is the best sale yet. July 18th. Clear but windy. The noted chief, Spotted Tail, called on his way to the agency. I drank a glass of beer with him, and he's a fine, large, well-built man. Has been on a visit to the whites in Cheyenne. Okay, Jess.
These are excerpts from the original diary.
This is what showed up on the microfilm. Can you scroll down so I can read that stuff, Jess? Or did we lose that?
I don't know, maybe I didn't hit save yesterday. Well, we do have it right here. Oh no. Why isn't it showing up? Plugged in. I don't know what it is. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, there.
Okay. Well,
Now, I don't know if I can read. Oh, we gotta get it. We gotta get it,
Current slide.
okay, we do.
I don't know, I must have bumped it. Maybe it's touchy.
But it was down there on that. There it is.
Yeah. Well,
I guess I can read it. You go ahead and read it.
okay.
Speak up, so. Lose it again?
I guess.
So touchy.
Sorry, guys.
There it goes. What did you do?
I think I'm just bumping it.
Okay,
Okay.
read what's,
Well, these are excerpts from the original diary.
speak up and a little bit more.
You probably cannot really see what it's saying, which is why we wrote it out down here after trying to decipher it. It says, yesterday got after a wolf, shot at him twice but failed to get him. DeLoss has been hunting the cattle all day, found no trace of them. I have been puttering around all day, done nothing to amount to anything. DeLoss thought I would get enough bull whacking, but he was mistaken this time. So
When I was down there in Cheyenne, I go through those archives and I'm looking for the buzzword DeLoss. And so that's kind of what I tried to pick out here.
So this slide says, DeLoss went back to the Black Hills and got some poles loaded up. It was dark when we got to the crossing. Did not stop until 11 o'clock. Snow is falling slightly in this section. And then the other one said, sold his cattle for $25 a yoke. DeLoss bought 5 yoke and wagon chains for $4.50.
I was thinking about it, something here, Jess. Oh, they talk, they're down to Cheyenne, they talk about the hills, they're going over past Camp Carlin and Fort Russell. They're going back up towards Laramie. That's why there's no trees up in that country now. On that road between Cheyenne and Laramie, because they were all timbered out. So whenever they go out for firewood or something, they go west and,
You can see where this is reading snow falling slightly, 450.
yeah.
Can you see where we're trying to make this stuff out, and it was a bit of a struggle. Okay. Arrived home at 9
Speak
p.m.
up.
Arrived home at 9 p.m. DeLoss is in from Laramie. Left the team on Chugwater. I oiled my 2 yokes that someone made for me with hat linseed oil to keep them from checking. They are made from quaking ash. So, you can see that, quaking ash.
Can you, that ought to be a little bit better. Can you,
You want me to?
yeah, don't hit anything. There.
Does that look better?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Says, hired a man to drive my team. Pay $35 per month. He is to lose time when we are not. He is to lose time when we are not
When they're not working.
working. Ron Lugnig, someone's name, went up to Camp Carlin to load for Fort Laramie, but could get no freight, so we loaded for Red Cloud at $2 per 100.
As the point guard, as the team leader, what do you do personally? What do you do to help your team get to the level that I know you guys all want to be at, and I know your fans want to see at?
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna stop, preparing and working hard when we're not in practice. I'm gonna continue to get in the gym. But as a leader and a teammate, right now we're coming off a losing streak, and we are the desperate team. We need to figure it out and find a way to win these close games, because I feel like with all the top teams that we've played to our competition, whether it's up or down, and we just haven't been winning these close games. I feel like over time, we can't keep losing these close games. We got to start to figure out the small one-possession mistakes or the small late-game mistakes that are losing us these games in a close situation. And, I feel like we just have to understand that it's the Mountain West and we can't come out flat versus anybody.
So we loaded for Red Cloud at $2 per 100. I picked up a load of wood and came home. That's what the first one says. And then the second one says, quite pleasant. The loss started for Red Cloud with 70 on my team and 80 on his.
That'd be $70, I'm thinking.
His team got one man and kind of another. After they are gone, I picked up and started for the hills, and also to look for stray cattle on Camp's range. Camped at 6 Army's Head Ranch on Crow Creek. Where you can maybe attempt to read it for yourself if you want to. Okay. Having very fair weather for March. I heard DeLoss is laid up at the old Red Cloud Agency at North Platte. Got a load of wood at the fort and worked about the house the balance of the day. The Indian excitement seems to be dying out. Unless the Indians create more deprivations, there will be no way. And then, what's the other one say?
I think you got it.
Uh,
That's the one you just did.
okay.
Go ahead.
Says, I went up to town to sell some trees but failed. I hear DeLoss is on his way back. All night Indians are holding council. That goes with this one. Holding council. Then the second one says, this is a diary left by a worker at...
This diary here, it kind of tells about some guy that was gonna go up there and find gold in the Black Hills. It was left at that roadhouse to the state station. And it was in all of this stuff, and it just gives you an idea of what they were going through.
Okay, and then, so this is from some other dude's diary, this second excerpt. Two men got in a quarrel today. Each got rifles to settle it. I interfered and got the rifle away from one before any shots were fired. Both meant to kill. Then the second excerpt says, stage stopped. 2 road agents or highwaymen stole $3,000. Stage stopped and robbed by 2 road agents or highwaymen, $3,000 stolen. You can attempt to.
That's a lot of money back up.
Yeah.
Camped at Red Canyon.
The Red Canyon is the canyon east of Edgemont. It goes to the north towards Custer. You get past Red Canyon, you get in a Pleasant Valley. So that's where Red Canyon is.
A hard day something, and a still harder day of thinking, oh, how I wish for the end. If I could only return like the prodigal son, then rain in the night. And then we figured this out, but I didn't get it saved. Dad, do you have any idea if you remember what they said here?
No.
getting back Cheyenne.
Oh, what did we get that say?
I didn't
Okay.
say the other.
Okay, let's go on.
Okay. Camped on Castle Creek going back to Cheyenne, if I can get there. It snowed and rained all day and heavy frost in the night. A man was killed overnight, is what the first one says. Man was killed overnight. And then, has been the most pleasant day since the 20th of April. On the road, camped on Indian Creek. Hard rain in the night. Camped at Red Canyon. Roaming all the roadside is graves of men killed by Indians. Then he says something and then he says, home, how sweet the word sounds. Then camped in Pleasant Valley, prospecting on a large scale, but nothing worked. Rained again in the night.
I think that was the last time it rained down in that country.
Then still on the road, rain and hail today. Then on the road, feel sad and disappointed. Hailed and rained tonight. He was just not having a good time.
Okay. That guy had a bad trip up into the hills, and he was glad to get back to Cheyenne. This is the marker down there, and if you look, those trees, that's on Little Bear Creek, but this marker was put up in 56 or 57, and it's still there. So when you're going down to Cheyenne, you look to the east on Little Bear Creek, and there's that marker about the state station. So. And this is DeLoss and his sister Rose. DeLoss secured a team of oxen and began freighting to Fort Laramie, Denver, Fort Fetterman, Fort Robinson, and Custer. After nearly freezing to death in a blizzard and nearly being killed by Indians, DeLoss quit freighting in the late 70s and went back to New York State. He ran a dairy for a few years and married Miss Green. On January 1st, 1881, DeLoss and his wife arrived in Custer City, Dakota Territory. His brother Newton was already there. Newton was younger than DeLoss, but Carl Tubb says Carl Tubbs would have been my grandfather, said his father, D.D. Tubbs, brought 50 head of cattle from Fort Laramie and Fort Fetterman to Wyoming to the Black Hills in 1876. He established a ranch in Custer County, and his son reports that his DT brand has been in continuous use since then. DeLoss and his wife built a log house in Custer where their brother, Newton Tubbs, lived. DeLoss started a small store and later, with the minister, cut and hauled logs for Custer's Methodist Church. His farm, 3 miles south of town, supplied people with milk and other dairy products. In the summer of 1889, DeLoss went west to the Jenny Stockade on Beaver Creek in Laramie County, Wyoming Territory. A man by the name of Field had staked a placer claim for oil on Salt Creek. DeLoss's town site was set up over the placer claim. to protect Mr. Field's claim. Also, the town site was selected because the railroad was being built towards the west, and the Cambria coal field was to the north. DeLoss picked this site, hoping that the grade of the railroad would pass next to his town. Tubbs had his store, 16 by 24, in stock only necessities: tobacco, salt, sugar, coffee, bacon, matches, flour, baking powder, a few overalls, and little candy. The next business was a bar in the open. Around it was built a saloon. The owner's name was F.R. Curran. There was a general store, a second saloon, and a dance hall, then a livery stable owned by Fred Coates. And I'm not sure there's Coates down around Edgemont, and it's very possible that the same Coates. A.M. Nelson had a dairy. The first Sunday in Tubbtown, some boisterous citizens passed an ordinance saying that they shall not pass without paying sufficient toll to set them up for the bunch. By July 1st of 1889, the small town had 2 more restaurants, a Chinese laundry, more saloons, gambling halls, dance halls, and a small drugstore. By July 4th, nearly all businesses stayed open all day and night. And if someone didn't like it, the motto was, if you don't like it, move on. Freight outfits, stagecoaches stopped at Tubbtown. One story talks of Calamity Jane pulled in with her big wagon and went to Roderick's store, where she bought a pair of pink china silk for a wrapper. A part of pink china silk. Some of the names: Old Dove, Jimmy the Tough, Frankie. Dance hall girls ignored the ladies' snubs and went their ways. Some, though reckless, were kind-hearted. Old Dode, so the story goes, took in and cared for the wretched family that was wiped out in a flood. Others were daring and casual. Jimmy the Tough, a handsome girl, rode astride rather than side saddle. One day she jumped off the horse in front of a saloon. She lost her petticoat. Joining unconcernedly in laughter, which followed, she picked up her skirt, whirled it over her head, and went inside. She picked up her skirt, whirled it over her head, and went inside. Mr. Tubbs was fair, but not accurate enough. Neither could he have foreseen the difficulties about land and prices which arose between Mr. Spencer of the LAK and the Lincoln Land Company, a subsidiary of the Burlington Kilpatrick Brothers, builders of the Cambria, and railroad officials advised by Edward Gillette chose the junction of the new branch line to Cambria with the main track for the new town site. And we're building a commissary next to the railroad embankment on a lot they had leveled. Coal and water would come from Cambria for the locomotives. The new town at the mouth of the canyon. In the final reckoning, Tubbtown, built on guesses and greedy dreams, never really had a chance. And there's a picture of Tubbtown. I think that comes from the Anna Miller Museum. Is there anyone here who lives in Tubbtown? Yeah.
Shirley does.
We got the
Shirley,
owner
you
of
do.
this, of the town
Shirley
site here,
does.
so.
Shirley's there. You live at Tubbtown, Shirley. You're in
Oh,
between
yes,
us.
I know.
Yep, she's my neighbor.
Good, good, good. I remember, I'm pretty small, back in about 64, what would that have been? Did they have an anniversary or something about Tubbtown? But there was some that come down to the ranch and visited.
I don't know.
Yeah, and no one, I can't, it might have been the guy that was doing the hand dug oil well.
His
Well,
daughter's
that
here.
could be.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah,
Al Smith.
yeah, that could have been who it was, I can't remember. But- So, okay, that's kind of what the picture, you, go back, Jess. You look down here in the bottom, that there's a set of elk horns down there. Yeah, in front of that cabin right there, yeah.
Elk Mountain used to have elk.
Yeah. Okay. So Newton was DeLoss's brother, and Newton returned to Custer in January of 1882, and in September of that year, he and Mr. Carey went to Cheyenne and got 3,000 head of sheep, which they had purchased. Mr. Tubbs located his share of sheep in Red Canyon, where he ran them for many years. Later, they ranged out from Edgemont. After leaving Tubbtown, the Tubbses, DeLoss and NS, started the NS Tubbs Sheep Company. It had been said that they ran 40,000 head of sheep. 10,000 of them were wethers just for wool. I have a letter from the Wyoming Sheep Commission dated 1901 where they were having an argument over bands of sheep crossing Wyoming, South Dakota state line and the health implications. Tubbs also had sheep south and west of Edgemont and down Red Canyon south of Custer. And they had, Marietta is the first, when you're coming out of Edgemont, it's about 5 miles up the tracks. And they had sheep shearing pens there. And you look at this picture real good, and they must have had steam engine or something, but they had power shears there. And they could shear those sheep and then put that wool right on the railroad. And the story goes that they were sheared sheep from clear over to Douglas and whatever. And I asked my dad, I said, well, how the hell do they get the sheep across? Because sheep, you shear them in the spring. Well, the river's running. How do you get them across that river? Supposedly they put wagons together, put plank over that wagon and chain those wagons together and make a bridge.
Wow.
Get those sheep started, you know. And but they brought sheep in, and that wasn't Tubbs's, but other people bring their sheep up there and shear them too. So go ahead, Jeff. DeLoss established a homestead 3 miles south of Custer. He milked cows and supplied Custer with dairy products. He was a politician who ran for state office, losing in the late 90s. To my understanding, he was a Democrat. Must have been better Democrats then. He was instrumental in getting William Jennings Bryan to visit the area when he was running for president. He moved out of the Custer area to the Edgemont area because the Black Hills had turned into a forest reserve and made it difficult to run stock. Newton was younger than DeLoss. He was more of a businessman. The sheep company was named after him. He lived in Custer. He built the Custer Mansion on the southwest side of Custer in the 1890s. He had a potato crop that made enough money to buy the lumber for the house. This house is still standing. When you come out of Custer and where you head to Pringle, it's on the west side of the road, right past that intersection right there, the old Custer Mansion. And that was NS Tubbs' house he built. DeLoss and NS bought land that had been under the Edgemont Canal. Now, when the railroad come in, they wanted people to settle the country, make that railroad work. You get up in the Northern Pacific and they give them that land, checkerboarded. That didn't happen here, but the government, to build that railroad, they must give them the incentive. We'll give you that land if you go out there and put irrigation or something on it. And the Edgemont Canal was built by this Lincoln Land Company, which is a subsidiary of Burlington at the time. They brought a ditch out of the mouth of Beaver Creek, where it goes into the Cheyenne River. We got that property right now, right where it comes out of the river, it came out of the river. And they run water clear to Edgemont, which is about, probably 12 miles. It dropped a foot to a mile, is about what the drop was on the ditch. And so the people who owned the property moved on because they could not get enough water. Well, they had 2 or 3 years, what we've had the last 2 or 3 years, no running water, and they had to move on. Tubbs has irrigated 1,000 acres of alfalfa by running water down the Edgemont Canal. Tubbses were the last people to run water to Lake Calvert. There's a lake in Edgemont, and it's called Lake Calvert, and that was before there was an artesian well that keeps it full now. DeLoss brought Grim alfalfa into the area, and they sold seed by the train box car load. The Tubbses were sued by a gentleman by the name of Birdsell, who was a Burlington employee, who claimed that he never abandoned the water right. Birdsell had not run water down the ditch for a number of years. Tubbses lost the lawsuit, and there never was water that flowed out of the Cheyenne River down the Edgemont Canal again. The Tubbs Sheep Company ended up in the middle teens of the 1900s in the hands of the receiver. They were bankrupt. Tubbses had to give up land to settle the debt. About the middle teens of the 1900s, the Tubbses started a dairy. They milked and processed and delivered milk in Edgemont until March 1st of '74. All the while having range cows and a large number of horses that were used for operating the ranch and rodeo stock. The dairy and ranch at the time were operated by Carl and Winnie Tubbs. Their children, Robert, Neil, and Edward, were instrumental in taking care of the stock. Robert stayed with the operation after the others left. In December of '73, more land was acquired. This purchase made it possible to run more range cattle. To this day, the ranch is being operated by Mark Tubbs and family, Jessica and Nate Tubbs. 5 generations have been on this land.
Everything.
You got it?
Yep.
That's it. Gives you an idea. Go ahead.
We lived in Edgemont for 15, 16 years, and we used to buy milk from Vale Farm Dairy.
Yeah.
And your dad would deliver it to our house. I think he charged 45 cents a quart for milk, and if you want a cream, I think it was 65 cents. And,
Yeah.
people said, well, you shouldn't be drinking that, it's not pasteurized, but they make it for years, several years ago, and never went away, so.
Well, it was how it was taken care of. I've been around some people, I wouldn't have them milk a cow for me.
So anyhow, I just did buy milk from Vale Farm Dairy.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or any thoughts? Yeah.
I had a question. Back in the diary there, it's during 1876. Was there anything in that about Custer's last stand?
And there might have been, but I didn't, like I said, when I go down there and go through there, I was trying to pick out buzzwords of DeLoss and that, but I'm sure there was, because there was a lot of military movement back then.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there was.
I
was fortunate at a young age to draw an antelope license, and a neighbor was friends of your family, and we went down by the south of Edgemont and went antelope hunting. The only problem I had, there was so many sheep down there.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been easier to kill a lot of sheep instead
of. And I don't think there's hardly any sheep down that country anymore. The Kyles put all those guys out of business. The Kyles put all those guys out of business. Yeah.
One other thing, Mark, your granddad, Carl Tubbs, what I remember about him, he told me that the reason the street is so wide in Custer, so they could turn a 20 ox team around in Main Street, is why the street was so wide.
Yeah.
But Deadwood, the ox in there, and it's a little street that's wide.
Have to go around the block. Yeah.
Well, Dad, I found it.
What'd you find?
I found the slideshow that we edited for the last week instead of the other
How
one.
did you do that?
I clicked on an old copy of it.
Oh, okay.
Now we gotta start over.
So, were you in the Buffalo Gap area?
No.
Where there's a railroad track that ended in Buffalo Gap. And my great-grandfather came to Wyoming from Nebraska on that train.
You know, I'm trying to think. Was that train put in the 1880s, early, I don't know either, but when my great-grandfather come back from Boonville, New York, I think he probably got off in Sydney and then they come up to Custer. Is what I'm thinking, yeah. Yeah, we have no idea what hardships were like. Just very, very, very lucky.
And so he got off the train there and walked over to the Indian Horse Ranch.
Yeah.
Walk where again?
The T Horse Ranch.
Fred Coates' son moved to Edgemont, so
Seeley's lived.
that's probably how the Coates down there are connected to Fred Coates here.
Say that again.
Fred Coates had a son move to Edgemont, and I know he died down there, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So that's probably where.
And I've seen that, I thought, and I talked to Everett Engelbert. His mother was a Coates. He didn't have any idea, but I need to push that a little bit more. To see, because it'd be interesting, if there's any tie to Coates they talk about.
They had some land around Dewey, so I think, he just probably drifted south. But
Yeah.
He had a heart attack, I think, down there and died.
Deb Smith is here, and she lives out in the vicinity. Is that right? She owns it. She owns it. And so, and she has some pictures that she brought.
Some photos you have, and write-ups, some of the information about Tubbtown, like when the railroad changed direction, when the Lost thought it was going to go further east and it ended up further west, which became Newcastle. Part of what happened was when that took place, they just brought wagons in. Those buildings were half timber, half canvas buildings, and they just took them down, loaded them up on the wagons, and moved them 4 miles west.
I didn't realize the gentleman by the name of Spencer, did he own the LAK or he just, okay? And, was there any relation between that Spencer and, there used to be a Spencer Hall down there on Cheyenne River, was it the same Spencer? No? Okay. Okay. But he owned it, you say? The LAK at the time. Was he the one that started the LAK then?
No.
The Spencer there was a Spencer that started the LAK, but I don't know if he would have been the one that would have had the land. Because they never had land down there.
Oh, I think it was two different.
Two completely different.
Yeah.
So I really don't know.
Joseph Spencer bought the LAK in like 1878 or 9.
Well, it's been, yeah.
So, him and Burlington were having squabbles on a whole right-of-way agreement and surface use and all that on following Stockade North through his farmland, I suspect.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to negotiate with him, so they kicked into the sagebrush flat to get out of that creek bottom. Because the creek bottom would have hit the Salt Creek and gone gone up the creek, but instead he just stayed up high in that sagebrush so they didn't have to pay the damages.
I've always had a question, when did they build, the dam? What year? Any idea?
LAK?
Yeah?
So Fred Coates, he was the surveyor and he constructed that in like 1907 or 8. So it's had 3 separate phases of it. The north is the original, and then they expanded it to about 2/3, and then like the 50s or so, I think, is about when this full size was. But the north side is the original one in 1907 or 8.
So Beaver Creek doesn't run quite as much as Spearfish Creek on the other side of the hill, but it is always a live stream. And when they put that irrigation in down there, out of the Cheyenne River down there, it was just below the mouth of Beaver Creek. You probably run all the time. And they put that dam in, they start slowing it up, is what I'm thinking. And that was the demise of that irrigation down there.
And it runs Stockade runs a lot more water than the other Beaver Creek that comes in at, like,
oh yeah,
MW and in there.
Yeah.
It picks up some more, but that thing's barely
Oh,
running
it
water.
does, but it comes out of the dry country too. Yeah. Upton.
At times, I've seen it go over Highway 450.
Oh, I know, but it,
As a rule.
so. Well, I appreciate it. Did anyone get any insight on that? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it. I might refine it a little bit more. I might present it up to Custer County too.
I think that they would really appreciate it and benefit from it, and now that you're working on it,
Yeah.
you may as well, and
Well,
like you said, you found the right file.
So
Keep going.
so N.S. Tubbs, he had a homestead down there where this house is. I think his homestead was out there where the Flintstones village was.
Oh.
And my great-grandfather, you go south towards Pringle, he was 3 miles out of town, and as you're going down the highway, there was just a deep draw down there, and I just started looking that stuff up, because you can get into archives and find those homesteads. And it was on the west side of the road right there. There was a Lindy sawmill down there years back. And I think just to the south there where that dip is, and that's where his homestead was. And then both of them come down to Edgemont, and at that time you could get what was called an additional. You could get another 160 acres. So, and both of them had additionals down in Edgemont.
Was the Lindy sawmill, was it Lindy or Linder?
Lindy,
Lindy.
Linde.
I know some Linders down that way now.
No, it's Lindy sawmill.
Is the house marked as a historical site?
I think so.
And it's the one right behind the car wash, right across from the car wash
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Oh, I've noticed it, but I
Yeah.
didn't know it was special.
It's a bed and breakfast now.
I don't know if it even, we pulled in there a couple years ago and there wasn't anyone around there. Kind of looked like disrepair a little bit. They had a monster mansion there at one time. Just kind of.
Where's the name of the
Famous land you got.
There are some people that have that name, but it's Greek island is called
You have a
Delos.
beautiful place there.
Thank you.
I have no idea.
Dutch.
So, Tubbs is, I look back and Tubbs has come in 1623 in the United States, comes from Massachusetts. So they've been around, they were in Canada. Back then, people were going back and forth all the time in Canada. Whatever.
That was really an early immigration, this one.
Yeah.
From what?
New York, let alone, state.
What country?
Oh, Dutch and Scottish, Irish, and Welsh. It's a Welsh name.
So probably came from Wales then.
Yeah. And on my grandmother's side, she was a Wallace, so that was Scotch.
That was Scotch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you much.
Thank you.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.